show. And just to confirm, that is at no cost at the time that we're making the decision. Those against? Okay. So that's a majority. That takes us to National Grid further developments, and I think the two things I need to raise here is we've had, as you know, a draft of a way leave agreement sent to us by National Grid, which we need obviously to get feedback from Charles Fleming on, just to make sure that he's happy that this is it's a standard way leave agreement that they're asking us to sign for where the cable would go and their equipment. We've contacted Charles Fleming just to say for him to let us know if there's anything in there that he is worried about. We will need to bring the agreement, once we know that, back to this meeting. But on top of that, at the moment the way leave agreement also has a plan as to where they're thinking about putting the wire, which was their original plan, not the one that we agreed at the last meeting. So that will have to change on this as well. But we felt it was worth getting the legal advice from our legal advisor in terms of, is this all okay, before we go any further.
He now has that document and is wading through it, although his initial response, having given it a quick look over, I spoke to him earlier on and he said his initial response is that it looks to have a decent agreement. Can't see any problems, but he wouldn't commit himself at this stage in writing until he's had a much more detailed look at it. So, yeah.
Malia.
So is the cable no longer going where we thought the cable was going?
No, so as things are at the moment, what we talked about at the last meeting about them rerouting it slightly wider around the building and away from the play equipment,
Yeah.
that we still believe is where it's going to go. We have had, I think we've had verbal acknowledgement from National Grid that they don't think there's a problem with what we put on the table. We have not had anything back in writing from them yet, and until we've got it in writing, we're not going to take it any further, because we need to know that we've got it confirmed exactly where we're talking about putting this. But as things stand at the moment, National Grid didn't feel that there was an issue. The other thing, of course, as you know from the last meeting, was we've got the issue with National Grid at the top of the green, and they're looking at running the two projects together. That in itself may make a further tweak to where they put the cable, because they may be running one cable rather than joining it at various parts. So until we've got those plans from National Grid, we can't sign off on anything. But as I say, at the moment, what we've asked Charles Fleming to look at is the wording and the agreement. The plan itself is a separate part of the agreement, but we'll need to agree that once we see where the lines are on the map. John?
Jack, do you intend to share that way leave agreement with the Parish Council?
I thought
it
went round. It was sent out.
I've been on holiday.
It wasn't. It's not recent. It was about a month.
But an update. If there is an update.
Oh yeah,
the
no,
amendments, that will be
absolutely. No, that will have to be.
That's the second part of it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. The only other thing I was going to ask him in terms of that is one of the things that the rerouting that we agreed at the last meeting potentially involves is works, potentially removal of the apple tree at the front. That may be something the National Grid will deal with, we don't know. If they don't, we will need to get a quote ourselves to having it done. Are you happy that we at least get some quotes in so we're ready with the information should we need it?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favour please show. And those against? And abstentions? We're not committing to anything at the moment, we're just simply getting the information, otherwise we then have to come back and it's another month before we then go back and get some quotes. So, okay. Anything else that anyone's got under National Grid further developments? No, okay. Which takes us on to the tendering process for the shop build. Basically, the situation we're in at the moment is, as Melina said earlier in the meeting, we had a tender process which we had sent all the information out. We had a number of people express interest. By the time we then extended the deadline for the tenders to come back, by the date of the close of tender we had not received any actual tenders. So we have had no people take up the tendering. As was mentioned at the time, a number of people had expressed concern about the fact that they didn't know when we were actually going ahead and what the delays were going to be, so how did they tender for something? So the proposal will be for us to, as we mentioned earlier, to talk to the shop, making sure that we've got our tender details correct, and then we will come back to the council for us to reinitiate a new tender process and to start the process again. So we will go out back for advertising. When we spoke to the architect at our buildings meeting, he felt it would be quite in order for us to do the advertising as last time, but in addition to that, where we had had people who had expressed an interest, he felt it would be perfectly sensible to notify them that the tender was back out, and should they wish to tender, then they could take up that opportunity. But it will be open to anybody to tender who wishes to come forward, but that's a decision. Hopefully for the next meeting, if we've got the details of the tender sorted by then. Yeah, in terms of your first question you raised, hopefully, Melina, that lets you know where we are and what the situation is. The second point, actual costs incurred in the build to be disclosed against current budget and future costs, also clearly forecast with timescales for budgetary purposes. Certainly we will be making the council fully aware of costs that are involved. So yes, I don't see that there will be anything that is not going to be disclosed in terms of any expenditure. John?
Have there been any ballpark figures thrown across? I know that might be a very loose question to ask, but obviously I'm not party to those conversations. Have there been any ballpark?
What, from tenderers?
Yeah, have there been any indications of ballpark?
No, we've had
zero.
We've had nothing come back in terms of the tender process that went out.
Okay.
Melina?
Does our loan offer expire in, is it November?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it can be extended.
But it can be extended, or it has been.
It can be.
Okay.
Well, it has been already, but it can be extended again further.
And do we know whether that is going to be enough?
No, I don't know that.
No.
The actual extension of the original loan application was based on the original request. If we wanted at some stage to go further and borrow more, then we have to start another process, clearly. So that loan application applies to the original loan we
And
had,
that was
160,000, and that hasn't changed. And that's been extended until at least December of this year. Actually got a contact there, which is very helpful, and she said to me that if we want to extend it further, it wouldn't be a major problem if I go back through her. She's
As long as the amount
as
doesn't change.
long as the amount doesn't change. Even if the amount does change, you're not ruling it out, but they're saying you probably will have to go through the process a bit more deeply than you would have done if you were just extending the same amount. So it's not an issue, I don't think, and I think it will certainly be extended if we wish it to be.
Aidy?
So this is all timeline now, it's all relying on the actual electricity. So if they turn around and say we can't do it till January the 1st.
That's not the impression we're getting at the moment. And that's one of, as we said at the last meeting, that's one of the advantages of potentially them running the two projects together, because they need to sort out the maintenance issue they've got.
Yeah, the squirrels, yeah.
So hopefully that then means that we're bringing forward, and I think we're led to believe at the moment, we're hopeful if they want to send us something in writing that we will be getting it with this calendar year.
Well, hopefully, because it's been going on a while now, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
But obviously Owen is chasing National Grid to get them to firm things up. Malcolm?
Does the end property that has the timber laid on the decking, does that affect the route of the cable?
No, cable's in there. The cable's
The cable on the green.
The cable will be on the green all the way up?
It is on.
It is at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that one? No. Okay. In which case, I think that brings us to matters of report.
Colin?
Nothing?
Nothing. David?
Can I put
village maintenance contract on the
Yes,
next
you
agenda for discussion, please?
Dave, yeah, it's on
Melina? John?
Yeah, I asked for some agenda points to be added to this meeting. I'm passing a copy of an email sent. Fortunately, I was in Spain, although I did get the email, so I wasn't able to read all the information, so I did receive it and notified to say, but I did ask for some agenda points to be added, and they were not added, so I've asked them to be submitted for September's meeting. Secondly, I'm passing over an envelope, which I've not opened, which was given to me. I'll be bringing that up in our September meeting. Thank you.
Right. Amanda?
No.
Jane? Eddie? Owen, anything from you? Nothing from me, so I think that concludes the meeting, so we'll close it at 8:25. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
John, would you take a photograph of that?
Wherever you want, mate.
No, underneath your...
Oh, yeah, so there's, yeah. All of that.
Just
Yeah.
just that.
Wherever you want, mate. Yeah.
John, keep it, looking back to you.
No, you can keep no.
Do you want them, John, a minute?
No, that's right then, thank you.